Hello friends, I'm Dr. Kaustubh Bondre. We are here to discuss the key takeaways and important points from today's editorials from newspaper The Hindu. Before moving forward, I would like to request you to subscribe to this channel, like, share and review this video when you are done watching it. So the first editorial that we discuss today is regarding pollution of water resources. The trigger has been the index developed by Niti Aayog. It says 70% of the water resources are identified in the country as polluted. The index is Composite Water Management Index. This is developed by Niti Aayog. Now, this article raises certain very important points that may be crucial for your mains as well as preparation of your essays. So, what are these important points which you can prepare separately? First, it is about the impact of global warming and climate change on the water resources in India. If you look at the water resources, for given the geographical size of India, India has surplus water. Now, this was also the context of a question that was asked in main examination last year. So, India has surplus water, but why does it have scarcity? So, the point is, first thing, we need to understand and identify the sources of water in India. We know that it is monsoon or the glacial melt predominantly. Now, these are stressed, both are stressed because of global warming and climate change, right? Melting of cryosphere and so on. So, this is the first issue that you need to prepare. Second, this article raises a very crucial point that till now, we have been worried, and especially the government has been worried about availability of water for various people or population or regions. Now, the question is not availability. Niti Aayog's index clearly tells us that the issue has gone beyond availability. It is even if the water is available, whether it is potable, whether it is good quality, right? Whether it is free of pollution or contamination. Now we know that if you look at the surface water resources of India, the rivers, lakes, and so on, most of this are polluted. 70%. This is the statement by Niti Aayog. So 70% resources are polluted. Next, we also see the groundwater condition of groundwater. So there are many areas, especially West Bengal, Jharkhand, and the eastern India, which has that contamination because of arsenic. Then in southern portion of the country, we have contamination, and even in northern parts, it's about fluoride. So the groundwater is also getting contaminated. Because of all this, the water resources, even if they are available, the question comes whether they are usable or not. So this is a very important second point. Third, it is about the quality of water, I mean surface and groundwater, that we have discussed recently. Next, it is about cooperative federalism. This article raises a very crucial issue. The government speaks about cooperative and competitive federalism, and here the government says that, and even we have argued and it has been argued throughout the country, that the states need to sit together and hammer out a solution for recurring interstate water disputes, right, of river basins. Point is, this article says that this approach of competitive and cooperative federalism, this is a very important model, the model that was followed in case of GST. So we have GST Council where all the states come together and under the guidance of center, issues are discussed and hammered out, the debates are hammered out, and finally solution is brought in through consensus. So all of them agree to that particular solution. This model of GST Council, it is argued in economic survey also that this model of GST Council should be used to solve contentious issues like water or sharing of river basins by the states and center. Now the point is, this article says that this cooperative federalism may have limited utility, right? This is practicality. The point is, the politicians in India are wary of solving this issue through discussion. Rather, they prefer to go to judiciary. The point being, when the decision comes through judiciary, even if it is unfavorable, it can be implemented without a political backlash. However, if the politicians participate in a cooperative federalism discussion and debate, and then they compromise certain water resources, then it will be very difficult for them to sell it in their own constituencies, that we have given rights to another state. So this, it has been highlighted here, that the state governments would rather seek judicial intervention than be accused of bartering away the rights of precious resource under a shared cooperative framework. So very important and practical point made by this article. Next, the issue is about the limits of centralized approach in solving the water problem. On one hand, we do agree that water as a state subject has created a lot of problem, and it has to be brought to the concurrent list, and Parliament needs to come out with a proper framework. However, on the other hand, when we speak about making water available and making it potable or utilizable, this process, it has been proved that this process, we can't just depend on the center for this or the state governments even. So we have to go to the local level. There have been numerous case studies. It may be Ralegan Siddhi in Maharashtra, Sukhumajri in Haryana, or the Pani Panchayat, the recent water cup that was held in many villages in Maharashtra. So where people take the ownership of water resources and they contribute not only monetarily but also through their labor to develop this and take ownership of this infrastructure, then the problem of water can be solved up to much extent. So decentralization of the issue of water. Next, it comes about the approach of watershed. So we have to conserve water, right? We have to not be dependent only on central state governments or even monsoon. The point is we have to make use of the available resources and we have to conserve it, use it sustainably. So it can be through cropping pattern, it can be through the way irrigation is brought out, like say micro irrigation or drip irrigation. Then it can be through the rationing of water so that those who need it get it in the adequate quantity, right? And certain controls that have to be kept on economic use of water by industries or other sectors. So this is and then the issue of recycling is very crucial here. So this is about the watershed approach. Here I have highlighted in the past articles also the four waters concept can be used. Hanumantha Rao gave this concept, and where he said that water management needs to be taken into context of understanding a comprehensive view of water. For example, four waters concept is water is not just say groundwater or surface water. It is precipitation, that is rainfall, surface water, which is rivers or lakes, it is groundwater, and then it is the soil moisture balance. So when we look at the conservation of water from a comprehensive point of view, taking into consideration all these four aspects, water problem can be solved up to much extent. Next, it is about pollution control. How do we control the pollution of water bodies? There are a few points that I would like to mention. One, we need regulatory framework, laws, right? So the government has to reframe the laws which are very antique, and then government has to bring out legislations where proper penalties are levied on anyone who crosses the line. Second, it is about the role of regulatory agencies. So, for example, it has been highlighted here, right? We have this fund. Then the regulatory agencies have been mentioned. That pollution control boards, right? Strict pollution control enforcement is very crucial. So the point is, we must have legislative framework. Executive framework should implement it strictly, right? And the principle at a principle level, we have to follow that polluter pays principle. So apportionment or accountability has to be established in terms of pollution of water. So polluter pays principle. Apart from that, what is important in this article? It is about the Mihir Shah committee report. I request you to go back and study this recommendations. Next, it is the fund mentioned here, National Irrigation Management Fund, and challenges again by urbanization. So urbanization and water, you can get a question on this relationship also, because the kind of urbanization that we are following, or rather that we are experiencing, right? This is unplanned totally. It can be studied under the head of urban climate. What we have done is the kind of infrastructure we have generated in urban areas, we do not allow the rainwater to percolate. We throw all the rainwater to the nearby streams. This causes flooding. And then the structures, concrete jungle that we have built, it severely affects the greenery, deforestation, and the hydrological cycle. So this has generated a very typical urban scenario where water shortage, and there was a report also from NASA, if I'm not wrong, that clearly mentioned that more than 40% of India's urban areas get more than 40% of their water supply from groundwater. Now, this is totally unsustainable. So, in long term, we are looking at a very, very serious and grave crisis, right? And lastly, it is we need to update the laws, institutions, and then we have to implement it well. And I believe that it is through public participation, right, decentralization of water conservation, that the problem can be solved, right? This is all from my side about this article. Next, we move to the second article. Now, this article by itself is not very crucial, but then how can we relate this article to what we study, especially in paper 2 or polity? So here I would like to highlight that democracy and the relation with politics, relation of polity with economics. So wherever it has been seen that the economic condition of the country deteriorates, it has political backlash, right? It creates a problem for the ruling government, and then the democracy is really tested in that particular nation or country, right? Second, it is about the features of democracy. Here it has been mentioned that the biggest plus point, that Mexico's transition through the ballot seems an integral feature of country's polity, and which is no mean achievement in Latin America, where dictatorships are very common. So the point is, this has been the strongest point of Indian democracy, that those in power have equal chance of losing the elections, right? So this is a defining feature of democracy which is celebrated. Next, the role of external factors. Here also the role of America is pointed out recently. I mean today also in Times of India there is a news report which clearly says that if Donald Trump gets a second term, right, the kind of behavior he is displaying, right? America and American democracy are in threat, one, and this has a cascading or domino impact on other democratic structures throughout the world. So democracy as a concept may be threatened because of the behavior of America in the next 10 years or so, right? So this is about the role of external factors. Here the NAFTA is also mentioned. America's decision to go out of the trade deal here, right? So this is it has not been done completely, but then America is thinking on that lines. And lastly, it has been FIFA. They are mentioning about the 2026 World Cup. So I would like to highlight that this is not related to the present issue directly, but wherever it is possible, you can bring in sports as a solution for reconciliation. This was used by Nelson Mandela in the form of 1995 Rugby World Cup to unite the white and black population and stop apartheid in his own country of South Africa. So use of sports, even India has done this in Jammu Kashmir, where we have tried to use sports and sports has been used as a channel where the energy of the youth is channelized in constructive manner, so that the political scenario is stabilized. So there are many case studies. You just focus on sports and its utility in reconciliation. The third issue that we discussed today is regarding a very important article. This article by itself, if you go to the specific points marked here, this article straightforward may not be useful for exam. But then whenever you see this name, Krishna Kumar, he's the former head of NCERT, right? So this person writes very logically and very nice articles. So this is something raises the issues raised are very crucial for your examination. So I've just collected those issues. I'll tell you. First, it is about the reference to books. So wherever you write your answers in GS and essay, especially, you should mention books and then what you learn. So you say what you want to say, but back it up with a very famous book and a particularly famous person. So when you do that, your statement gets a very good weightage. Next, it is about the role of history, right? When we speak about history and its role in evolving the concept of nationalism, right? I would like to highlight that in any country, any government would try to bring in, every government will try to bring in a national identity, because this national identity becomes a super, or it's called that, this is an identity which is beyond or larger than the smaller identities that people harbor and which are creating fractures in the society. For example, religion, caste, region. So these are identities. You need a supranational, you need a higher identity which can unite people under its own fold. This is called national identity. That is the reason where each and every government wants to evolve a national identity. Even our government presently also is trying to do the same. However, you must have noticed that whenever any government comes in power, I'm not specifically mentioning India, but anywhere in the world, any government which comes into power, the first thing that they tinker with is the history textbooks. The reason being, history is a very important source of national identity, because it is the way people have evolved. They derive the meaning of their existence and what values they should follow or not follow from the historical struggles that that the country has gone through, right? That is why our constitution also mentions that it is the fundamental duty of every person to cherish the national ideals or the ideals of the freedom movement and the struggle for national independence. So here the writer raises very important issues, that when we speak about this interpretation of history, what happens in India is, majorly we know the divisions are ancient India, medieval India, and then modern India and postmodern times. So this interpretation of history by various communities in a multi-diverse society, like a multicultural society like India, or multi-religious society like India, creates a lot of problems. That this source of interpretation from the history, especially the medieval part, has been more troublesome in stitching the country together. So this is what the writer is highlighting, and he is highlighting through a very important case study where he says that research that was done in schools, a survey that showed that even in the schools, the history that is taught is not neutral. What is seen is people actually start their prejudices or stereotypes from a childhood, where through family or school they pick up wrong interpretation of various eras that the country has gone through. So the challenge for India in short or long term is to stitch a coherent narrative where we accept all parts of our history as our own, and then evolve a narrative which will be acceptable through consensus by all or most of the communities in India. So this is very important point raised by the article. Next, I would also like to highlight that when we speak about national identity, it's a trinity. It's a trinity. There are three pillars to national identity. One is history, second is territoriality. So our stand on territory, unity and integrity. And third is about culture, right? So if any government wants to strengthen its rule, what they try to do is change the narrative in terms of history, stress on territoriality, because that is something that can unite the people under one fold, right? So external threat, highlighting external threat, and third is cultural homogeneity. But then I would like to point out, when we establish a national identity, it is better that we do it on political ground. So common constitution, the constitutional values, that was what our constitution makers wanted. So a political narrative giving national identity common to the people of India is more preferable than stressing only a cultural identity, because stitching the present India together into a common cultural identity is a grave threat. Because if you try to do that, impose cultural identity, it's going to create fissures, and this politics of social division is going to create polarization, which may result into grave and serious problems in the future for the country. So this is about the article from Krishna Kumar sir. Next, we move to the next article. This article is about Shujat Bukhari. We know it's a very unfortunate incident that a warrior for peace in Kashmir was gunned down by militants. Now, what issues does this article raise? So here also, rather than the specifics, we'll raise the larger issues which will be useful in mains examination. First, Kashmir is a fractured society. So today, and not just Kashmir, I speak about the state of Jammu and Kashmir. So there are fractures between POK and our territory. Second, it is about different composition of Kashmiris or Jammu Kashmir state. So it is Ladakh, Jammu, and Kashmir Valley proper. So this is again fractures, and then there are fractures in terms of politics, parties, and the population. So here we need to build bridges between various fault lines that are present in the Kashmir. Second, youth can be a double-edged sword. Kashmir is the best example. We need to channelize this youth energies constructively so that we do not see them on streets. Rather, they are seen in schools, classrooms, and in jobs. Next, it is political alienation of Kashmiri people. This is a real threat because the youth of Kashmir and the population of Kashmir do not see Kashmiris as a part of the solution. Rather, they see or they feel a sense of alienation from the government, not only the state government but also the central government, and this is the real threat. So we need to engage politically with all the constituencies, and the question here is whether such dialogue or reconciliation is conditional or unconditional. What I mean is, India has straightforward stand that territorial unity and the integrity of the country and the supremacy of Indian constitution cannot be compromised with, and then they start the dialogue, right? Kashmiris or the various groups, especially the separatist group, says that the dialogue should be unconditional. Now this is an open question, right? It is right on the part of the government to establish red lines, but the problem is, when you establish red lines, it is very difficult to get the other party across the table to sit and talk, right? So the way I am very sure and optimistic that the way government has worked out a framework for Nagas, right, in due course of time, it is the need of the hour that violence in Kashmir should stop and a framework should be evolved on the lines of Naga framework. Second, this article also raises a very crucial issue about journalism and the state they are in. In the past article video also, I have highlighted that the organization of reporters, so Reporters Without Borders, they have brought in a 2018 World Press Freedom Index, right? Reporters Without Borders, they have brought in 2018 World Press Freedom Index, and in this index, unfortunately, India has slipped by 2 positions, and the position is also very shameful. It is 138th rank that India has in terms of providing a safe atmosphere for journalists to function. Now, this is not just about journalism, it is about our democracy, right? Media is called the 4th pillar. So this is a very shameful statistics for our country. Next, this issue is also about ceasefire, because when ceasefire is not present, right, dialogue, and I mean bullet and ballot, right, and dialogue cannot go on together. So what we need is, we need to stop these hostilities on both sides, or rather the militancy we need to control, and Pakistan needs to be very serious regarding the peace initiatives of India. But here also I would say that we need to have optimism, because if America and Iran can sit together and talk, if the Koreas can sit together and talk, if America and North Korea can sit together and talk, if China and Japan can sit together and talk, why not India and Pakistan? Why not India and the people of Kashmir, who are integrally the citizens of the state of India, right? Next, It is about the centrality of dialogue. So ultimately, that is going to be the solution, not military, right? Next, the next article that we raise here, it is about Indira Gandhi and her secretary at the time, PN, that is Parmeshwar Narayan Haksar. So he is one of the most seasoned diplomats celebrated by the country, right? So this issue is important, or this person is, or his history is important for paper of ethics and essay. So as personalities, as ethical bureaucrats, civil service values. So here you can see that he drifted apart from Indira Gandhi by bravely opposing the emergency from inside. So this is a bureaucrat with a spine. So the original vision of Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, that civil servants should be fearless and they should be giving neutral and good opinion to their leaders without getting bogged down, right? So this is what we can see was the life of P.N. Haksar. So this is about this issue. Next, we move to the next issue. It is about online civility, social media. So this article also raises certain crucial issues. I would like to highlight them. First, social media and freedom of speech. Now, this question is going to come, that when we speak about social media, it is unregulated, more or less. And when we say, theoretically at least, if it is unregulated, then what about the protection of freedom of speech? Because trolling, right, threats, and the kind of behavior we see, this is not civil. This is not a civil behavior on social media. Second, the concept of truth is being debated, because on social media, theoretically, it is seen that social media allows to speak truth. It spreads truth. Why? Because there are no regulations. However, it has been seen that the concept of post-truth is very crucial for social media also, because the kind of fake news, right, and morph videos, fake videos, and all this is regulated. This is totally uncensored, and this creates a lot of problem in the society, because incitement of violence, in many of the incidents, it has been seen that social media has been the root cause. Next, trolling or shrinking of the democratic space. Wherever there are people who freely express their mind, and especially if they are speaking against the established powers in the society or polity, what happens is there is a fierce backlash against these people. They are trolled, they are given threats, and even it's very pathetic that female journalists are given threats of sexual violence or assassination. And you saw what happened with Gauri Lankesh in Karnataka. So this is a real threat where social media tends to become anti-social media. So it's a very crucial point. And the point is that democracy is all about competing narratives, right, being discussed, competing narratives being used to evolve a common narrative, so all acceptable. So dialogue should be the prominent channel, and there should be platform where this dialogue is possible. Social media was perceived to be such space where all the competing narratives can come together to evolve a common narrative. However, it has been seen that it is a double-edged sword, where the other side is also possible, where the competing narratives start dominating over each other and violence becomes the currency of the time. So this is very problematic. Next, we raise the last issue. It is about, again, Shujat Bukhari, and it is about journalism. So this example can be a very good case study in mains and ethics, where the values of journalism can be highlighted for a democracy. So first is case study about journalism. Next, it is about ethics. So ethical person Shujat Bukhari and his entire work was based on a firm foundation of ethics. So that is that also adds to the value of media as the fourth pillar of democracy. Next, it also raises issue about new forms of censorship that are emerging on social media. So social media tends to become anti-social media and spread of new form of or wave of censorship. So this is very problematic, where the distributed attacks on freedom of expression are very common. Here it is highlighted that censorship of troll farms, bot networks, distributed denial of service, that is called DDoS, right? Attack personal data exfiltration and expropriation, hacking, leaking of media, civil society and other private information for political, commercial or personal gain. So these are all the threats to media, from especially when it comes to social media or use of internet. And lastly, it is said that preserving the space for dialogue is a collective responsibility. So I would like to highlight that we had, by constitution, after independence, we have got a democracy which is called as representative democracy. However, the time has come when we should be speaking about participative democracy. And when we speak about participative democracy, we cannot depend on the state to give us that space for democratic dialogue. It has to be participatory, where civil society and the people, we, the people of India, should take that firm stand and behave responsibly, not only in the political space but also in the social media space, where we stop spreading messages which create hate in the society. we apply our brain before forwarding any message, and then we build towards or make efforts towards building bridges with communities, people, right? And we start speaking truth to the power, right? So this is all from my side. I wish very good day to you, and happy studying. Thank you.